This is the single largest business opportunity, an opportunity to do good that any of us are going to see in our lifetime.
Welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Executive Enablement Series, where we speak with Microsoft Cloud senior leaders and experts about the latest trends in technologies we're seeing in the market. The goal of this series is to share with you and your teams our perspective on the business value driven by the Microsoft Cloud for our mutual customers, and the opportunities for our partners to grow their business with Microsoft.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Karuana Gatimu, and we have such an important topic for you today, filled with opportunity and hope. I have an opportunity to interview Alec Saunders, who's going to share with us insights about sustainability and AI in the partner ecosystem. Alec, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm really glad that you're here. So first off, what is it that you do?
I run for our partners our global go-to-market strategy around sustainability.
That is a cool job, actually.
It is a fun job. Yeah.
How did you end up here?
You know, it's funny. I mean, COVID came along.
Right.
That summer, I had bought a national park pass before the lockdowns. And I thought,
well, that was fortuitous.
What am I going to do for vacation? And so off I went and with my wife, and we toured around a bunch of northwestern parks. Ended up in the John Day fossil beds over in Oregon. I was thinking I was going to see plants. I was going to see insects, those kinds of things. What I saw was what they call paleosols. It's a fossil record of climate on Earth over the last 50 million years. I thought, this is super cool, really colorful, really nice, pretty to look at. Sat in a restaurant, the one and only restaurant and bar in the little town of Mitchell in Oregon, that night, talking about this with my wife, and a guy leaned across the table and he said to me, so, well, you know, this is about this, and this is about that. And eventually he was so knowledgeable. I said to him, how do you know all this? He says, oh, well, I calculate the carbon footprint for the state of Oregon. How do you do that?
What a job. There's a job for you.
And so I started to dig into it. It was like, oh, aha. This is a data problem. So a little while later, I was thinking I was going to leave Microsoft and go and do something else. I have a passion to be a baker. And my boss, really smart guy, said to me, no, stick around. Figure out what you want to do. We've got lots more that we can ask you to do, and I've got lots of small jobs you can work on while you're figuring that out. Did some grad school courses, dug into how sustainability manifests itself in the business world, and then along came a job building a partner ecosystem around sustainability products.
That is fantastic. What is the scope of the opportunity for partners today?
It's best way I can describe it is it's huge. We have some numbers, and I'll get to that. But personally, I think they're too small. Because when you think about what we're trying to do, I mean, humanity, our civilization, is in the process of trying to shift from one form of energy to another one in a very short period of time. And so for context, the last time we had a great big shift like this, the beginning of the Industrial Revolution.
Correct,
It took 150 years for us to hit peak with coal, which was fossil fuel. It didn't happen until the 1950s, right? And that changed everything about the world and business. And so here we are with sustainability, with the global climate crisis, and we're trying to do the same thing, and we're trying to do it in a period of just 30 years, shifting away from fossil energy to electricity. And we're trying to do it for a population that is 10 times as large. And we're trying to do it with a highly integrated economy. We didn't have that back in the Victorian era.
Right, correct.
And so what is the global opportunity that's associated with remaking the world's economy in just 30 years?
Well, and I think that, you know, our partners are primed to help our customers navigate this, but it's also for the partners to think about themselves in terms of their own footprint, right? So nobody is escaping this transformation. And I think we all need help with that, and I believe that's where AI comes into play.
Yeah.
How do you think about AI and sustainability?
The fundamental thing with sustainability is that it's a huge data problem. Right? I mean, end of the day, you know, when we think about digital transformation, which we've been talking about for the better part of a decade at Microsoft, it's always about creating that virtuous feedback loop. You centralize the data, you bring it into a data estate, and then once you've got some analytics around it, you can decide how to change business processes. So the sustainability problem is very similar. We're constructing a data estate of sustainability data, and then we're looking, based on the information that we're getting from the signals that we're getting from different parts of the business, at what the emissions, the footprint associated with that part of the business is, and then we look at how it is that we can bring that footprint down. So from a partner perspective, Microsoft is helping to assemble that data estate, but every single business process that a partner touches around the business is an opportunity to transform that part of the business from a sustainability point of view.
Wow, that is so interesting. What are some like real world examples of that? Because one of the things I think that partners do is they bring inspiration to our customers when they can explain these opportunities and these use cases and what have you. Do you have some that you think of?
Sure. There's some really simple things that a partner can do. Moving a workload from an on-prem data center into the cloud has a huge impact, especially when you're choosing Azure, because the Azure cloud is so sustainable. So we've seen some really solid examples there. For instance, the UN Refugee Organization a few years ago reduced their carbon footprint by 94% by moving it into the cloud and then by applying the well-architected framework to reworking workloads so that they were more sustainable.
Wow.
Another area that you see businesses all the time looking at, and this has to do with the regulatory environment, sustainability requires us to be able to account for the footprint of our business across the entirety of our supply chain, our value chain. So at Microsoft, 94% of our emissions come from third parties that we do business with. That's how the accounting rules work.
I see.
And so if you're thinking about the regulatory environment in Europe, you have to account for that. And it's a huge data collection, interpretation problem. And that's a place where AI can play a huge role because it allows us to be able to gather information and analyze that data in an extremely effective way. So we have supply chain partners that are doing that kind of work today on behalf of our customers.
And you want to be able to start these conversations in meaningful ways. A way that I could have a conversation with a customer that was grounded in real information.
Yeah. I think one of the most important conversation starters and a place that you have to get your customer past is that this is just good for business, right? I mean, there's an awful lot of conversation in the press about, catastrophic events that are coming, but lean away from that. Lean into what will this do for your business? And I have a great example. So the Ontario Power Generation Corporation, which generates electricity in the province of Ontario in Canada. And what they had been doing was slopping power across the border into the northeastern United States and into upstate New York. And, they were having trouble balancing the grid. They were having trouble doing a bunch of different things. It's incredibly important, especially as we electrify everything, to be able to balance that grid.
Yes.
We helped them build an AI model that did that for them. But the unintended side effect, and this is an amazing side effect, was they also implemented a demand pricing model, and they made $1 billion more in revenue just by being more efficient about how they manage the grid. And they helped to decarbonize a whole pile of businesses in the upstate area of the United States simply because of the fact that they are almost all hydro and nuclear, not coal.
This is exactly the energy that I think our partners need to bring and that their employees need to bring as they think about where are their businesses going to be in 18 months, in 3 years, in 5, right? Skilling their people is so important, wouldn't you say?
It's incredibly important. And that's one of the reasons why, we've launched skilling initiatives with LinkedIn to help do that kind of thing. And we've provided a whole bunch of data online or courseware online that allows them to go and do that. I think one of the things that I didn't understand when I first got into this that was incredibly important is the power of culture change. So if you look at Microsoft, when I first started doing work on this, our sustainability resource group internally, the Sustainability Connected Community we call it, was maybe 3,000 people. And that's just employees who are passionate about the topic. It's over 10,000 now, 2 years later. And that group of empowered employees has huge impacts inside the company. Simple things, like they were the ones who advocated for recycling the cooking oil out of the kitchens and turning it into hand soap in the bathrooms. And we produce 30,000 liters of soap a year. But to the other end of it, which was, Brad Smith, what are the principles that we're going to use to do business with the oil and gas industry? Because we want to do business with the energy industry. It's an incredibly important industry for us all, but we want to know that the energy industry is making transitions to where they're less dependent on fossil fuel and less polluting. And so out of that, a set of 5 principles were articulated that Daryl Willis, our VP of Energy, announced 2 years ago. And that was an employee-led initiative.
That's amazing. If you had to give some words of wisdom to the partner leaders that are out there right now, what would your words of wisdom be for how they should get started today?
I think that number 1, culture is incredibly important. Skill your people. Number 2, think of your business as a sustainability business. Back in the beginning, I talked about data and the constellation of business processes around it. Every one of our partners has an opportunity to position themselves and to help customers to be more sustainable in their businesses. Whether you're talking about HR or whether you're talking about energy use, Johnson Controls, one of our partners, helps us to manage the energy in our buildings. And when we combined their software with our autonomous AI, what we got was self-regulating systems that knocked 15% off the carbon footprint of the buildings that they were installed in immediately. So there are all over the place. Every business has an opportunity to have a sustainability impact.
I'm very much given so much hope by what you're talking about. I love the positive energy of looking at this as a data problem, of leaning in. There's so much opportunity for our partners, and that really does drive economic reform and economic growth, which is, of course, something we all want.
Absolutely. I have conversations with customers and partners pretty regularly, and my point of view on this is we all saw what happened with the Industrial Revolution. You can either be an automobile manufacturer or you can continue to make buggy whips. So which one do you want to be? Because this is the single largest business opportunity, an opportunity to do good that any of us are going to see in our lifetime.
And now with the power of AI across our ecosystem, it's almost supercharging that opportunity. And it's certainly giving us more tools with which to understand and gain insights from that data, I would think.
It's not just gaining insights from the data. Some of the hardest problems in sustainability are being solved by AI. So for example, agriculture accounts for roughly 1/3 of the emissions in the world.
Okay.
And that can be managed with better farming practices, a practice called regenerative agriculture. How do you determine whether or not farmers are practicing regenerative agriculture? I mean, it's great, big, huge open spaces.
Right.
Satellite imagery and image recognition software helps to make that happen. And just today, I met with a company called Agricon, and what they do is they provide a piece of handheld software that runs on your mobile phone that lets the farmer do the diagnosis on the ground, and the data fusion of the satellite imagery, the subsurf imagery data that they're getting somewhere else, and the farmer's data produces an incredibly accurate result. And that's AI in action. It used to be done by sending hordes of inspectors out, thousands of inspectors to inspect farmers' fields to make sure that they were doing this stuff. And now the farmer will be able to do it themselves with a handheld device. Image recognition software, the stuff that we do with OpenAI, it's a hugely visible piece of technology right now.
Right.
Schneider Electric just recently announced their Copilot for their EcoStructure resource tools, which allow executives now to ask natural language questions of the massive sustainability data that's accumulated out of their business and see in real time what those results are. Another one, Emissions AI from ERM, is a tool that grabs the IoT data exhaust that's coming off the factory floor, and they have a model that they've built that allows you to run that data exhaust through that model, and it will suggest process improvements immediately, which on average save a customer 7% on emissions. And when you save on emissions, you save on energy, you save money, you produce a better bottom line for your business.
Tell us a little bit more about the opportunities that exist for partners.
Great question. And we talked a teeny bit about just how large it is, and I mentioned that I didn't think the numbers that we had were large enough, but let me just sort of dig into how we think about that. We think it's about a $340 billion a year opportunity in software and services in fiscal 26, so in the next couple of years. And it's growing incredibly quickly. And quite frankly, I mean, I've been in the industry a while. I have never seen anything take off like this. We like to scale our businesses on a nice grade and learn some things, that old crawl, walk, run, rant mantra. It's going like this.
Wow.
It's just going straight up. So massive opportunity there. Moving workloads to the cloud, that's a great opportunity for a whole bunch of different kinds of services partners, system integrators and others like that. Another great opportunity, we mentioned supply chain earlier, anything that has to do with value chain, all the way from retail management in the store back to the mining companies that mine ore, or the farmers that produce raw materials. Every place that there's software in that value chain is an opportunity for a partner to go in and execute a sustainability transformation. There's another opportunity around building data estates. We've got a lot of partners that have built their businesses building data estates for businesses, and the sustainability, the ESG data estate, is just another flavor of that, and the skills that you already have. Yes, you'll have to learn a little bit about carbon accounting and some other things, but who doesn't like to learn? And that is a place that you can play. And then the last one, we have all kinds of partners in the IoT space, in manufacturing, in other places like that, where there are direct reduction opportunities associated. Because every single customer will go through a cycle of, I got to collect the data into my data estate, I've got to set some goals around reductions, and then I've got to go and start to implement that. And those IoT partners are key to being able to help customers implement those kinds of reductions. Sometimes they're going to do things like, I spoke to one partner who's selling electric vehicle as a service, fleets of electric vehicles to companies that have large fleets. That's a completely new business opportunity, but sometimes it's going to be, hey, I'm going to help you make better use of the electricity in your building and the heat in your building, and that is something that we've been doing with some partners for a very long time. So there are 4 big buckets. Reduce the impact of the energy and other parts of the business that you have consumption in, drive emissions out of the supply chain, move workloads to the cloud, and assemble data estates. And as I said, we think that's around a $340 billion opportunity in software alone.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of opportunity, because in the course of being a business leader, you get these opportunities maybe once, right? Maybe twice in your career. All of these things just make so much opportunity in our ecosystem. I'm excited for what it means to be a partner. Now, I also know that it's very hard work, but our ecosystem support is here to help them with that transition.
Yes.
They don't have to do this alone. And talk to me a little bit about that.
First of all, there are places for every kind of partner to play. So if you are, I work with a whole bunch of companies right now that are traditional sort of business restructuring partners, the McKinseys and the BCGs of the world, but there's a whole group of them that are in the space that are around environmental management as well that are coming to play too. So there's an interesting fusion coming across there. There is an opportunity for the traditional business advisory and system integrator partners. Sometimes you're going to come in and help them build a data estate and restructure, and sometimes what you're going to do is configure a bunch of stuff that they've got already that's different. There are opportunities for ISVs everywhere, because whether you're talking about governance or management of equipment, those things exist as well. There are opportunities up and down the food chain. So at the highest end, our strategics, our largest customers worldwide, they need to do this. But because of the fact that they have to do this across the entire supply chain, every one of their suppliers has to as well. So at Microsoft, any supplier that does more than $1 million a year with us is a material entry into our sustainability report, and we're asking them to provide that kind of information.
Right,
So to
right.
get educated on it, I mean, we've provided materials on how to do this kind of thing. We have a group of global black belts now on a global basis that can do this kind of work, and we have chief sustainability officers now in many of the different countries that we have around the world that we have a presence in, and on the ground in each of the subsidiaries, not every subsidiary, but many of them now, we're starting to see the same kind of devotion because customers are asking for this. I'll give you an example. The new regulatory regime in Europe, CSRD, the Corporate and Social Responsibility Directive, it went into place last December. Over the next 4 years, it's going to require 50,000 customers across Europe to report. 50,000. They're all going to have to build data estates. They're all going to have to be able to report against their ESG characteristics to the regulator, and they're all going to have to report upstream to the customer that buys from them.
So much great information, but I know that there are potential risks and challenges. So how should our partners think about those risks and challenges?
Those are super questions. And I mean, anytime you ratchet up the amount of compute you use, and AI will do that.
Yes.
You're also increasing the emissions associated with the calculations that you're doing. So, a couple things I think. Number one, run your models in the cloud. I mean, don't try and do this on an on-prem data center. We'll do a better job of managing those emissions at scale than you possibly can. Number two, if you're building a custom model, how accurate, how trained does it have to be? Because the highest emission part of using an AI model is actually training the model. So if you don't need that last 0.1% of accuracy, and you're going to have to do this for whatever your scenario is, then make that call and make that call responsibly. Ultimately, if you're a really sustainable business, you're going to be reporting out your sustainability results, and you're going to look at that and you're going to say, yeah, I can train that model a little less in order to be able to reduce the emissions associated with it. So the third piece is, if you don't have to use a custom trained model, and generative AI, large language models are a really good example. Use a model that's already been trained at scale that can be deployed across many workloads. And those are the ways I think about, mitigating the risk that's associated with AI. Oh, and the other thing, of course, is, choose a data center to run your AI workloads in that's like Azure, that has really clean sources of energy. And even within ours, choose the data centers that have the cleanest sources of energy, because not all of ours are equal. And you can find that information out by using the Azure Emissions Impact Dashboard.
I didn't know such a thing existed. See, I just get to sit here and get smarter. How wonderful for the partner to go to the customer and say, look at this dashboard right here. You can see this information, and we're just publishing it.
And from the perspective of doing business with your customer, it's a really easy thing to do, is to sit down and say, hey, have a look at this. And the other thing that you've got an opportunity to do then, if you're an SI partner, you can go to your customer and you can say, have a look at this information that's coming from the Emissions Impact Dashboard, and then you can propose re-architecting that workload using the well-architected framework for sustainability, which we published 6 months ago.
You realize you're just sitting there giving me homework. I actually read the blogs, and I do pay attention to this as a part of my job. I run our communities and what have you, but you just told me 3 things I didn't know about. So how do I stay up to date?
We are in the process of transforming just about every part of our business into a more sustainable business, especially the software that we deliver. But I tell people to go and look at that well-architected framework. Look at the training material that's available on learn.microsoft.com. Just search for sustainability. There is a podcast that one of my colleagues, Gina Kirby, puts out on a regular basis, and you can find that as a video asset also on learn.microsoft.com. And then the general manager of the Microsoft Cloud for Sustainability, his name is Shefi Manail Karim. So it's a big handle, but just remember Shefi, it's S-H-E-F-Y. Search for his blogs, because they probably release new information and new features every couple of weeks. The Cloud for Sustainability is evolving at an incredibly fast pace.
This has been such an informative conversation. What are the 3 key things that you want leaders to take away from this today?
There are 3 really big ideas that I think are important. Number one, it is a massive business opportunity. We are out there literally as human beings, as civilization, transforming the world's economy, and we're doing it in a very, very short period of time. So it's just a huge opportunity for all of us. The second is, it touches every single business. You know, whether or not you are a small farmer delivering fiber that's going to be made into shirts, or you're a giant agrochem company, or you're a steel producer, or you run huge numbers of data centers globally like we do. We all have a stake in this, and it will touch every single part of every business operation. So as a partner, figure out what your sweet spot is. Go and dig in there, because everything is going to be a sustainability problem. And then the third thing is, at Microsoft, we are leading by example. We publish sustainability reports on a very regular basis. We've been doing this for 12, 13 years. We have a lot of scars and a lot of experience that you can leverage. And we've got the resources in market and the products in market that can help you to succeed at this opportunity.
That is fantastic. It's important information about the opportunity for everyone and also about the good that we can do in the world. Alec, thank you so much for this conversation. I have learned a ton, and I know everyone listening and watching has as well.
Well, thank you.
I'm so glad that you joined us for this very important conversation about sustainability, AI, and the opportunity for your business. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again soon.
And that wraps up today's episode. Don't forget that this episode is a part of a series featuring some of our most experienced and innovative global executives, packed full of great insights and examples of how to make the most out of working alongside Microsoft. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our other episodes. No matter your industry or area of focus, the Microsoft Global Partner Enablement Team is here to enable you and your teams to achieve more. If you want to hear a little more of this episode, we have a podcast which has some more of our discussion and some bonus content. If there's an area of cloud innovation you'd like to hear more about, please send us a note at salesenablement-gsi@microsoft.com so that we can create content that meets your enablement needs. Thank you for listening, thank you for engaging with us, and thank you for being a Microsoft partner. We'll see you on the next episode of the Microsoft Cloud Executive Enablement Series.